One of the 4 steps that get you started down the path of sustainable wealth is to know your financial situation. And it currently is the end of the year 2020, and it's the perfect time to be thinking about this. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. 2020 has been a surprising year for everyone involved. If you own a business, it's likely your state shut down your only income stream. If you're a high-income professional, perhaps you've worked at home rather than in an office. If you're a regular employee, perhaps you've received the bite of layoffs, downsizing, and other economic withdrawal as a result of the COVID-19 response. Now, this is a global challenge. In some countries, there are country-to-country embargoes. In other countries, travel restrictions have limited individuals from being able to do their daily work. And I know that you want to get the results that allow you to transform your income into wealth and prosperity, whether it's for your retirement, whether it's for individual goals, or just the security of knowing you've got a little money set aside for unusual situations. Now, let's talk about this. Know your financial situation. There are many subscribers who, when COVID hit, it did not impact their lifestyle, their decisions, or their ongoing financial security. So, for example, when you know your financial situation, you're aware of your debt as well as your obligation to that debt, which is the debt service. What are your payments? What are your terms? What are your interest rates? And when mortgage rates went down to 2%. Many of them just simply refinanced. Now, they had stable income, not just from a job, but they had multiple streams of income. And because they were aware of their financial situation, they knew where to apply perhaps emergency cash in order to sustain their basic needs so that they could be in a position to address opportunities in the marketplace, such as lower interest rates, stock market crash, or other growth in stocks. There are a few stocks that we were looking at. And again, this is not a stock picking newsletter, but the concepts of buying low and selling high are universal. I was looking at a few stocks that when they were announced as being the pharmaceutical companies involved in a vaccine, prices shot up 22%. Now, what you'll notice is they were growing before that, and there are indicators that can help you find those things. But again, this is not a stock newsletter. It's mostly about knowing your situation. Did you have dry cash available when an opportunity came? Did you have a sufficient emergency fund so that when you lost your position or lost income in the business? When you apply for loans, if you apply for loans, do you have a method of approaching that? See, it's easy to make money. The problem is keeping more of the money you're earning. There are many high-income professionals who make too much to benefit from these stimulus. Now, I don't think the government should be bailing out people. I think the government should leave people alone, and the education is available for people to make informed decisions, but we can't always control our external factors, such as the government, such as mandates, such as global medical crisis. Now, if you know your financial situation, though, you can prepare for what is coming. So understand this. Right now, you're paying a certain amount of taxes. If the government gives away a lot of money, whether in America or some other place, the government gives away a lot of money. The government doesn't generate income, doesn't generate revenue other than taxing people. And so if it increases its deficit, it will have to go after the people to increase its tax I don't want to say contribution because nobody really wants to pay taxes. I don't mind paying taxes for the necessary things, but when I see the government waste money, it's a little frustrating. But ultimately, you could have worked half the year, lost your job, and not qualified for any of these benefits because that half of the year was way above the limits that were set in place for this, quote, free government money. And then the free government money has strings attached to it, which have legal and administrative duties. So if you were a business and you took out a loan that was to pay payroll, you have to evidence that. Otherwise, the loan has to be paid back or otherwise has penalties involved. And then the increased regulation. So what am I getting at? Knowing your financial situation gives you a foundation to stand upon and make accurate and informed decisions about your financial situation. So perhaps you did not have an emergency fund in place. You may want to liquidate assets, convert those assets into cash. You may want to change how you contribute to retirement, or otherwise shift the performance or the balance of your investments. But you may not want to do anything, knowing that these kind of situations happen all the time. Because this year it's COVID, last year it was SARS and MARS, and the previous year it was something else. We do have bad flu seasons. We do have viruses that escape. It's happened every year since humans first walked this earth. But when you know your financial situation, you know what position you're in as you approach your goals and outcomes or desired outcomes, as you apply wealth building skills, as you take actions, you are taking those actions on informed decisions. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff out on the internet telling you how to measure your financial situation. I'm going to recommend you skip the internet. Okay, because remember, the premise of what we're sharing here is for high income professionals. If you make a top 10% income, if you're in the upper income brackets, then there's 90% of the people who make less, and they are a much bigger and more desirable audience than the 10%. Because if you're making informed decisions, you're less likely to make decisions and overpay. You're less likely to make decisions that will cost you in the long run. You're not out there taking predatory loans because you have enough buffer in order to get the best interest rates. You have a really good credit score. Here's what's important. When you're out on the internet, the majority of the revenue comes from advertising. It comes from selling mailing lists. It comes from magazine subscriptions, and a subscription to the few who tend to be well-informed consumers is not as profitable as a subscription to the masses. Think about it this way. Esquire magazine, People magazine, has a much higher subscription base than the Wall Street Journal, the Robb Report, or any of these other specialty magazines. Now, U.S. News and World Reports, huge subscription base, huge distribution. And to have that huge distribution, it's got to cater to that 90%. So if you're out there searching on the internet, you're out there watching MSNBC, the late night news, Jim Cramer, and all these folks, they're catering and positioning in such a way to entertain the masses. Susie Orman, all these folks, they're there to entertain the masses. They're going to teach you and show you things that are for those folks getting started. Right or wrong, there is no right or wrong about it. It's very neutral. You've got to know your financial situation. So if you've got an income of $250,000 a year and you're sitting down in front of a show that's talking about saving an extra % on a vehicle, when you could just buy the vehicle outright and not pay any interest on it, you need to know from your financial perspective what's the right decision. Buy a new vehicle, finance a new vehicle, lease a vehicle, don't lease a vehicle inside your company, lease a vehicle outside your company, buy the vehicle outright, buy a used. There's a lot of options. So again, knowing your financial situation, it's the end of the year, or it's first quarter, fourth quarter, perfect times. Now, I would even argue that you want to, at the end of each quarter, reassess your financial situation and review a accurate profit and loss statement and balance sheet. Because once you get over about $150,000, you're no longer doing personal finance. You're now in a position where you make more money than the majority of the businesses in the United States. I know you're thinking about IBM and companies like that, but those Fortune 500 companies are just 500 companies out of millions of companies. The typical bookstore in your neighborhood, independently owned bookstore, coffee shop, restaurant, the haberdashery, the small shops and even contractors, they don't make $150,000 a year. Some do, some don't. We usually have to get to about $1 million in gross before the owners are going to make six figures or better. Again, what is your financial situation? And if you can't go online to get advice, if you can't go and watch the nightly news to get advice about your finances, where do you turn? Well, I'm an advocate of a CPA or a certified financial planner. The certified financial planners are, especially if they're fee-based, are going to have a better understanding of the principles of finance, and they're going to put you in a better situation to grow and keep the money you're earning. Now, you have to be careful here because some of the certified financial planners are actually brokers, and brokers make you broker by charging you fees and commissions for so-called advice. I'd rather pay outright for advice. Many of the subscribers who are learning the sustainable wealth secrets, that have got into coaching programs, who have used CPAs, lawyers, certified financial planners through my recommendations and referrals, they find that just simply paying for advice and making informed decisions based on knowing their financial situation pays dividends far beyond what you might get with the whims of the market. Now, it's okay to be informed of the whims of the market because sometimes you'll find out if everybody's stoking the S&P 500, you know that you can sell out of that and take your profit and take the profit and put it in something else that's on the next wave. The news tends to work in a waves or cycles in order to float the excitement that keeps you tuned in. And we can talk more about the psychology of these sources. I just think right now it's best to understand that the end of the year is the perfect time to sit down, understand your expenses, understand your debt obligations, understand that debt, is it working for you or working against you? Looking at your capital expenditures and purchases. Does your house need a new roof? Is this the best time to refinance your house to free up cash to do improvements that increase the value of the property? To look over the decisions you've made over the last year. Are there any decisions you would not make again, and why? This type of assessment is powerful in the sense that it gives you hindsight that informs your foresight and helps you make better informed decisions. Now, your money is at risk today because taxes will go up. There will be inflation. The basics of economics show us that when the government's spending trillions of dollars and driving us into debt, printing more money doesn't solve the problem. So what are the strategies that convert your income into wealth and then create wealth that cash flows? Well, you're in the right place. Here at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com, we focus on those actions you can take that create measurable results. We tend to measure with net worth and free net cash flow. And it's the end of the year, perfect time to sit down and know your financial situation. Now, there are 4 steps in the core principles that we teach at Sustainable Wealth Secrets. If you have questions about what I've shared here today or those 4 steps, you want to visit me at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. Simply contact my office with your questions, and I'll be happy to answer them in a podcast. Or if you have an immediate need, from time to time, we do have paid consultations available. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. Thanks for listening. We're here to help high-income professionals keep more of their income working for them and use it to build wealth that cannot be taken away. Thanks for listening.